Golden Blued back with another video just for you, the college football fan. So if you are a college football fan, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Look, it's a long college football offseason, but I'm here to get you through it. Don't forget to go check out our Patreon page. A lot of time and effort going into that. And I call my Patreons the shot callers because, well, they do call the shots around here. Also, we have a great website designed and created by Joey Foster. We have 8 great writers led by head writer Michael Walker. Guys, I am getting very, very excited because the college football season is getting closer and closer and closer. We're just 3 months away. So preview and prediction videos will be coming out very shortly. I'm talking within 2 or 3 days. The past 2 years that I've done my preview and prediction videos, I've been pretty stinking close on my predictions. Not perfect. There's a few teams that I totally flopped on, but for the most part, pretty good. And I saw some things that other people did not see. So stick around to see what I say about your team this year. But today we're going to talk about the end of an era. The NCAA Division I Council has removed the restrictions on conferences that have 12 plus members having a conference championship. You don't have to have divisions anymore, which to me, that didn't really make any sense anyway. Sometimes you didn't get the 2 best teams in the conference championships. Isn't that the whole point of a conference championship? 2 best teams, mano a mano. Who's the best team out of the conference? Well, with this division rule, a lot of the times that did not happen. And immediately, I'm talking minutes after that rule was dropped or relaxed, the Pac12 announced that its conference title games would now be between the 2 teams with the highest winning percentage starting this year. Now, we already know that the ACC has already announced that they are interested in going to a 3-5-5 setup with no divisions. 8 conference games, 3 of them would be permanent opponents. Then the other 5 games would be 5 teams one year, and then the other 5 teams the next year, rotating year to year. But they're still avoiding the term pods. They don't want to use that term. And it's funny because the Pac-12 made sure that people knew that they claimed that they thought of getting rid of the divisions in bringing up the motion to deregulate conference title games. They want to take credit for that. The ACC's like, oh, hold on. That was our idea. They claim that they first thought of the idea back in 2014 when they started the push to deregulate conference title games. Didn't pass back then. But then Jim Phillips, the new ACC commissioner, reintroduced it, and the Division I Council took it into consideration and passed it. So who gets the credit? According to that, I would think the ACC, but I would have to look into that more. But Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, here's what he had to say about it. A year-long conversation. When we go to 16, what will our divisions look like? Or what will our schedule look like? Those possibilities include no divisions. It is on our list, but we are not going to do it in a knee-jerk way in a reaction to today's decision. Basically calling the Pac-12 a knee-jerk reaction conference. Way to go, SEC. Stay classy, Greg Sankey. What does this do for college football? Well, first of all, no more unbalanced conference championships or unbalanced divisions. That got on my nerves so much. And I understand the purpose of divisions. It helps with the travel situation when a conference is that big. But you never know when one division is going to be stacked and the other division is going to be weak. Just use it for scheduling. That's it. If you want to keep divisions, that's fine. But don't use it for your conference title game. I also think getting rid of divisions allows for more compelling regular season matchups. And I think it gives a conference a better chance to make the playoffs because you have your 2 actual best teams playing for your conference championship. So there's no chance of this 7-5 or 8-4, 9-3 team upsetting an undefeated or a 1-loss team from the other division and knocking you out of the playoffs. On top of that, conferences now don't have to have an even numbered amount of members once they are over 12 members. Now, if you're under 12 members, it doesn't matter if you have 10 or 11. You don't have to have divisions. Once you hit that 12 member mark, that's when you have to have divisions. So you have to stay with even numbers so both divisions have the same amount of members on both sides. So that opens up for these larger conferences that have more than 12 members, say in ACC, if they just want to invite 1 team, they can do that. They can go to 15. They don't have to invite 2 teams to make it even. Now, I said it before, but I'm saying it again. This is the biggest deal out of this. This would guarantee that the 2 best teams in the conference play for the conference championship. And in my opinion, that's the whole point of having the conference championship. The 2 best teams going at it to see who's the best. So I went back 5 years for the ACC, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the SEC. Didn't have to do the Big 12 because they haven't had divisions because they've only had 10 members the past 5 years. So only did those 4 conferences. And I looked at the conference championship game, how it looked like with divisions, and what it would have looked like without divisions. Would it have been a better matchup? And for the most part, the answer is actually yes. Yes, we could have had much better conference championship games if there were no divisions. By the way, I left out 2020 because it was a COVID season. Teams that were supposed to make the conference championship, like in the Pac-12, Washington had to back out because of COVID, and then the ACC didn't have divisions at all, so it messed everything up. That's why I didn't count 2020. First, we'll start with the ACC 2016. The ACC Championship featured Clemson versus Virginia Tech. Clemson's final ranking was number 1. Virginia Tech's final ranking was number 16. Clemson went in at 11-1. Virginia Tech went in at 9-3. Close game. Clemson won 42-35, but it should have been Florida State who got in there. Florida State also finished the season 9-3. They did lose to Clemson, but it was a close one, 37-34. So that should actually have been a rematch and give Florida State another shot at Clemson. Florida State finished the season number 8 in the nation. 2017 featured number 13 Miami against number 4 Clemson. Miami finished season 10-1. Clemson finished season 11-1. Clemson won 38-3, but believe it or not, the ACC got it right then. 2018 featured number 1 Clemson against non-ranked Pitt. Clemson was 12-0. Pitt was 7-5. And of course, Clemson waxed the floor with them 42-10. Who should have been there? Well, actually, Syracuse should have been in there. They finished season 9-3, number 15. They did lose to Clemson early in the season, but only 27-23. Give Syracuse another shot because Pitt did not belong in the ACC Championship in 2018. What about 2019? Well, it featured number 2 Clemson against non-ranked Virginia. Clemson was 12-0. Virginia was 9-3. Clemson blew them out 62-17, but believe it or not, that was the right matchup. 2021, number 13 Pitt against number 15 Wake Forest. Both of these teams 10-2. Pitt beats Wake Forest 45-21. Correct matchup though. All right, let's move on to the Pac-12. 2016 featured number 17 Colorado against number 4 Washington. Colorado was 10-2. Washington was 11-1. Washington beat the brakes off of 41-10. It should have been USC who went 9-3. Bear with me. I know that's not quite as good a record as Colorado, but USC beat Washington and Colorado previously in the season, and they finished the season number 3. They finished strong. Those losses came earlier in the season. You should have given the Trojans another shot. 2017 Pac-12 Championship. Number 20 Stanford against number 12 USC. Stanford was 9-3. USC was 10-2. Good game. USC wins 31-28, but it should have been Washington State. Washington State finished season 10-2. It was the loss to Stanford at Stanford 30-22 that knocked them out, but they had a better record. It should have been number 16 Washington State against number 12 USC. 2018 Pac-12 Championship. Non-ranked Utah against number 13 Washington. Both of these teams 9-3. Not a good-looking game at all. Washington won 10-3, but it should have been Washington State instead of Utah. Washington State finished the season 10-2. They did lose to Washington. That's why I would have kept Washington, and they beat Utah. So of course it should have been Washington State versus Washington in a rematch of the Apple Cup. Yes, I would have watched that. 2019 Pac-12 Championship. Number 16 Utah against number 5 Oregon. Utah was 11-1 and Oregon was 10-2. Not really that competitive. Oregon wins 37-15. This was the correct matchup. 2021 Pac-12 Championship. Number 22 Oregon, who was 10-2, against number 12 Utah, who was 9-3. Utah wins 38-10. This was the correct matchup. On to the Big Ten. 2016 featured number 9 Wisconsin against number 7 Penn State. Both of these teams were 10-2. Penn State prevails 38-31. But I think Ohio State should have been in over Wisconsin. Ohio State finished regular season 11-1, and their only loss at Penn State 24-21. That's what knocked them out of the Big Ten Championship. Well, with no divisions, it would have been a rematch between Ohio State and Penn State. 2017 was number 5 Ohio State against number 7 Wisconsin. Ohio State was 10-2. Wisconsin undefeated 12-0. That was surprising. Ohio State did prevail 27-21, but it could have been Penn State. Penn State finished season 10-2, but they did lose at Ohio State by 1 point. That's what knocked them out of the Big Ten Championship. So technically, maybe it was correct because Ohio State did win the head-to-head, man, by only 1 point at home. 2018 Big Ten Championship. Number 21 Northwestern against number 3 Ohio State. Northwestern was 8-4. Ohio State 11-1. Ohio State no trouble at all. 45-24, but it should have been Michigan, not Northwestern, in the Big Ten Championship. Michigan finished season 10-2. Their only Big Ten loss was at Ohio State, and they finished season number 14. So it should have been Michigan versus Ohio State, another rematch of a big-time rivalry for a conference championship game. Yes, I would watch that. 2019 Big Ten Championship. Number 3 Ohio State against number 11 Wisconsin. Ohio State 12-0. Wisconsin 10-2. Ohio State prevailed 34-21. But maybe it should have been Penn State against Ohio State, a rematch. They had an even record with Wisconsin. They actually played Ohio State and were competitive. They did lose, so technically maybe Wisconsin was the right choice, but Penn State could have possibly made the Big Ten Championship that year. Finally, 2021. Number 3 Michigan against number 23 Iowa. Michigan 11-1. Iowa 10-2. Michigan blew them out 42-3. Who should have been in there? Well, not Iowa. Iowa. It could have been either Michigan State or Ohio State. Michigan State finished season 10-2. They actually beat Michigan earlier in the year, but they got blown out by Ohio State. And then the other choice, of course, Ohio State, they finished season 10-2, and their only Big Ten loss was at Michigan, 42-27. So either way, you'd get a rematch of a team that Michigan lost to in Michigan State, or of a big-time rivalry, Michigan and Ohio State again. Another rematch between Michigan and Ohio State. I'm looking forward to that in the Big Ten if that's what happens in the future. And finally, the SEC. What about the SEC? When 2016, it was number 2 Alabama against number 14 Florida. Alabama was 12-0. Florida was 8-3. Alabama beat the brakes off of them 54-16. That was the correct matchup, actually. 2017 SEC Championship. Number 2 Georgia against number 10 Auburn. Georgia was 11-1. Auburn was 10-2. Georgia beat the brakes off of Auburn 28-7. This was not the correct matchup, though, because Alabama finished the season 11-1, and their only loss was to Auburn at Auburn 26-14. That's what knocked them out of the SEC Championship. Of course, Alabama went on to win the national championship, finished number 1, and they weren't even in the SEC Championship. Yeah, that was wrong. And it was all because of divisions. 2018 SEC Championship. Number 2 Alabama against number 7 Georgia. Alabama was 12-0. Georgia was 11-1. Alabama wins a good game, 35-28. Correct matchup. 2019 SEC Championship. Number 4 Georgia against number 1 LSU. Georgia was 11-1 going into the game. LSU undefeated 12-0. LSU destroys Georgia 37-10. Correct matchup. And finally, 2021, number 1 Georgia against number 2 Alabama. Georgia was 12-0. Alabama was 11-1. Alabama beat the brakes off of Georgia 41-24. Correct matchup. So the SEC has actually been getting the correct matchups. There have been some blowouts. Maybe that's why Greg Sankey gave the statement that he gave, because for the most part, the right teams have been in the SEC Championship. The SEC is not worried about making the playoffs. Whoever wins the SEC Championship is guaranteed to make the playoffs. Y'all let me know in the comments section what you think about no divisions anymore in college football. Do you think it's a good thing, or do you think it's a bad thing? That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.